Anna Carson's life was the picture of perfection until it wasn't. Living in a charming suburban neighborhood, she had everything she ever dreamed of: a beautiful home, a loving husband, and a successful career. At 34, she was an accomplished interior designer, known for transforming dull spaces into breathtaking works of art. Her husband, Mark, was a well-respected lawyer, admired by colleagues and clients alike. Together, they were the envy of their friends, the couple everyone aspired to be. But beneath the surface of this idyllic existence, Anna harbored secrets that she kept locked away, even from herself. Occasionally, when she was alone, shadows of her past would creep into her thoughts, bringing with them a sense of unease she couldn't quite shake. Yet, she pushed these feelings aside, convincing herself that the life she had now was all that mattered. The past was just that, the past. It had no place in the carefully constructed life she had built with Mark. On a crisp autumn morning, Anna stood in her kitchen, sipping coffee and admiring the view from the window. The leaves were turning shades of gold and crimson, and the air was filled with the scent of impending change. As she watched the world outside, she felt a rare moment of contentment. Little did she know, this tranquility was about to be shattered, setting off a chain of events that would change her life forever. That afternoon, while Mark was at work and Anna was busy preparing for an upcoming project, the doorbell rang. Startled, she set down her blueprints and walked to the door, expecting a delivery or a neighbor stopping by. But when she opened it, she found herself face to face with a stranger. He was a man in his late 40s, with tired eyes and an air of familiarity that sent a chill down her spine. "Anna Carson?" he asked, his voice tinged with a sense of urgency. She nodded, unable to speak, as a wave of unease washed over her. Without waiting for an invitation, he handed her an envelope. "You need to read this," he said, his tone serious. "It's about your past." Anna stared at the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. The man gave her a long, searching look before turning and walking away, leaving her standing in the doorway, holding a piece of paper that felt heavier than it should have. She knew, without a doubt, that whatever was inside would bring her carefully crafted life crashing down around her. Anna closed the door and leaned against it, the envelope still clutched in her hand. Her heart pounded in her chest as memories she had long buried began to resurface. Flashes of a different life, one she had worked so hard to forget, played in her mind like scenes from a forgotten movie. The images were fragmented, but they carried with them a familiar sense of dread. She walked slowly to the living room, her steps heavy as if she were trudging through quicksand. Sitting down on the edge of the couch, she stared at the envelope, hesitating. Part of her wanted to tear it open and confront whatever secrets it held, while another part wanted to throw it away, pretend it never existed, and continue living the life she had built. But deep down, she knew she couldn't run from her past forever. With trembling fingers, she finally tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, neatly folded. As she unfolded it, her breath caught in her throat. The words on the page were few, but they were enough to send her world spiraling into chaos. "You can't hide from the truth forever. It's time to face what you've done." The note wasn't signed, but Anna knew exactly who it was from. And she knew that her past had finally caught up with her. The note haunted Anna for days. She found herself unable to focus on her work, and her thoughts were constantly drawn back to the past she had tried so hard to bury. She was distant with Mark, avoiding his questions about what was bothering her. He noticed the change in her demeanor, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him the truth. Not yet. In the quiet hours of the night, when Mark was asleep beside her, Anna would lie awake, replaying the choices she had made all those years ago. She remembered the people she had left behind, the lies she had told, and the guilt that had followed her every step of the way. She had always believed that if she could just move on, start fresh, and build a new life, the past would fade away. But now it was clear that it was never truly gone. As the days turned into weeks, the strain of keeping the secret began to take its toll. Anna felt like she was living on borrowed time, each moment ticking closer to the inevitable confrontation. She knew that if she didn't take control of the situation soon, everything she loved would be destroyed. But the fear of what might happen if the truth came out paralyzed her, leaving her trapped in a web of her own making. Mark couldn't ignore the changes in Anna any longer. She had always been the center of his world, vibrant, passionate, and full of life. But lately, she had become distant, lost in thoughts that she wouldn't share with him. It wasn't like her to keep secrets, and Mark's concern grew with each passing day. He decided that something had to be done, and if Anna wouldn't tell him what was going on, he would find out for himself. He reached out to an old friend who worked as a private investigator, someone he trusted to be discreet. Mark hated the idea of spying on his own wife, but the need to protect their life together outweighed his reservations. He gave the investigator a simple task: find out what was troubling Anna, no matter where the trail led. Mark had no idea that this decision would lead him down a path of revelations that would shake his world to its core. As the days went by, Mark tried to act as if everything was normal, but the tension between him and Anna was palpable. He watched her closely, looking for any sign that she might open up to him, but she remained closed off. The more she withdrew, the more determined Mark became to uncover the truth. He had no idea that the secrets he was about to uncover would challenge everything he thought he knew about the woman he loved. One evening, unable to bear the tension any longer, Anna decided to tell Mark part of the truth. She couldn't bring herself to reveal everything, but she hoped that by sharing a piece of her past, it might ease the growing distance between them. As they sat down for dinner, Anna felt her heart race, knowing that this conversation could change everything. "Mark, there's something I need to tell you," she began, her voice trembling slightly. He looked up from his plate, concern etched on his face. "There's something from my past that I've never told you about. It's complicated, and I'm not proud of it. But it's been weighing on me, and I need you to know." Mark listened intently as Anna spoke, revealing a story from her youth, a time when she had made choices out of desperation and fear. She left out the darkest parts, the pieces of the puzzle that would have painted a clearer picture of who she had been. When she finished, she looked at Mark, hoping for understanding, but instead, she saw a mixture of shock and betrayal in his eyes. He didn't say much that night, but Anna could feel the rift between them growing wider. In the days that followed, Mark tried to process what Anna had told him. He wanted to believe that the woman he had married was still the person he thought she was, but doubts gnawed at him. The story she had shared didn't quite add up, and he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more she wasn't telling him. He was right. The private investigator soon returned with information that complicated things further. The details were sketchy, but they hinted at a darker, more tangled past than Anna had let on. Mark was torn. Part of him wanted to confront her, demand the full truth, while another part feared what that truth might be. The woman he loved was slipping away from him, and he didn't know how to stop it. Anna, meanwhile, was living in a state of constant anxiety. She could sense that Mark was growing distant, and she feared that he was beginning to piece together the parts of her past that she had tried so hard to keep hidden. Every time the phone rang, or there was a knock at the door, she jumped, dreading the moment when her carefully constructed life would come crashing down. She knew she couldn't keep the truth hidden much longer. One evening, as Anna was returning home from work, she found the stranger waiting for her outside the house. Her heart raced as she approached him, fear and anger battling within her. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, her voice barely concealing the panic she felt. The man looked at her calmly, his expression unreadable. "You know what I want, Anna," he replied. "It's time for you to face the truth. You've been running from it for too long." His words sent a chill down her spine, but she forced herself to stand her ground. She couldn't let him see how much he was affecting her. "I've moved on from that life," Anna said, her voice firm. "Whatever you think you know, it doesn't matter anymore." The man shook his head, a sad smile playing on his lips. "You can't escape your past, Anna. It's not just about you anymore. There are others involved, people who deserve the truth." Anna's resolve wavered. She could feel the walls closing in around her, the life she had built beginning to crumble. The man's words echoed in her mind as she walked past him and into the house. She knew he was right, she couldn't run forever. But facing the truth meant confronting the darkest parts of herself, and she wasn't sure if she had the strength to do that. As the days passed, Anna found herself sinking deeper into a mire of guilt and fear. The confrontation with the stranger had left her shaken, and she knew that time was running out. The memories she had tried so hard to suppress were now flooding back, bringing with them a wave of emotions she wasn't prepared to handle. At night, when the house was quiet, Anna would sit alone in the darkness, haunted by the faces of those she had wronged. The guilt was overwhelming, a constant weight on her chest that made it hard to breathe. She had thought she could move on, start a new life, and leave the past behind. But now she realized that the past was a part of her, and no matter how far she ran, it would always be with her. Mark noticed the change in Anna, the way she seemed to be withdrawing further into herself. He wanted to help her, but he didn't know how. The woman he loved was slipping away, and he felt powerless to stop it. The secrets she was hiding were like a wall between them, and the more he tried to break through, the more distant she became. Mark was beginning to fear that their marriage might not survive the truth. Mark's worst fears were confirmed when the private investigator returned with a full report on Anna's past. As he read through the pages, Mark felt his world tilt on its axis. The woman he thought he knew, the woman he had built a life with, had been living a lie. The details were shocking, and as Mark pieced together the fragments of her story, he felt a deep sense of betrayal. That evening, Mark confronted Anna. The confrontation was heated, filled with accusations and denials. Anna tried to explain, to make him understand why she had kept her past a secret, but Mark was too hurt, too angry to listen. The trust between them had been shattered, and Mark wasn't sure if it could ever be repaired. For the first time, Anna felt the full weight of her actions. She had known that the truth would eventually come out, but she had never imagined it would be like this. The look in Mark's eyes, the pain, the disappointment, was almost too much to bear. She had spent years trying to outrun her past, but now it had caught up with her, and the cost was more than she had ever imagined. The days following Mark's discovery were a blur of anger, silence, and despair. The man who had once been her closest confidant, her partner in everything, now looked at her with eyes filled with mistrust. The distance between them grew with each passing day, and Anna knew that Mark was contemplating the unthinkable, separation. She had never felt so alone. The walls of their beautiful home, once filled with laughter and love, now felt like a prison. Everywhere she looked, she was reminded of the life they had built together, a life that was now crumbling because of the lies she had told. Anna was consumed by regret, but she knew that no amount of remorse could undo the damage she had caused. Mark, on the other hand, was grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. He still loved Anna, but the betrayal cut deep. How could he ever trust her again? The foundation of their marriage had been built on honesty and mutual respect, and now it seemed that everything was based on lies. Mark found himself at a crossroads, torn between the love he still felt for his wife and the pain of her deception. As the tension in their marriage reached a breaking point, Anna's life began to unravel in other ways as well. The stress of keeping her secrets hidden was taking a toll on her work, and her performance at the design firm began to suffer. Clients noticed her distracted demeanor, and soon, she was losing projects she had once handled with ease. Her reputation, once sterling, was now tarnished by whispers of unreliability. Friends, too, began to distance themselves. They sensed the change in Anna, the way she had become closed off and secretive. Invitations to social events dwindled, and Anna found herself increasingly isolated. The life she had worked so hard to build was slipping through her fingers, and she felt powerless to stop it. Mark, meanwhile, was struggling to cope with the fallout of their crumbling marriage. He threw himself into his work, trying to escape the pain of coming home to a wife he no longer recognized. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape the gnawing sense of loss. The woman he had loved for so many years was gone, replaced by someone he barely knew. Mark began to wonder if their marriage could ever be salvaged, or if it was time to let go. In a last-ditch effort to save her marriage and her life, Anna decided to confront the truth head-on. She reached out to an old friend from her past, someone who had been there when her life had taken the dark turn that she was now trying to escape. It was a risky move, one that could either help her find closure or push her further into the abyss. The friend agreed to meet her, and they arranged to meet at a small cafe in a quiet part of town. As Anna waited, her mind raced with thoughts of what she would say. She knew that this conversation could change everything, but she also knew that she had no other choice. The life she had now was crumbling, and if she didn't do something, she would lose everything. When her friend arrived, the conversation was tense at first. They spoke in hushed tones, revisiting the painful memories that had shaped Anna's past. As the conversation progressed, Anna realized that her friend still harbored resentment, and the wounds from their shared history had not fully healed. But despite the tension, Anna found some solace in being able to speak openly, to finally confront the shadows of her past. Whether this would be enough to save her marriage, she didn't know, but it was a start. Anna's attempts to regain control of her life were soon met with a devastating blow. The stranger, the man who had brought her past crashing back into her present, revealed his true identity. He was someone she had wronged in her past, a man whose life had been irreparably damaged by the choices she had made. He had spent years tracking her down, driven by a need for justice, or perhaps vengeance. The revelation hit Anna like a tidal wave. She remembered him now, though she had tried to forget. The guilt and fear that had been simmering beneath the surface boiled over, threatening to consume her. She realized that this man wasn't just here to expose her secrets, he wanted to destroy her, to make her pay for the pain she had caused. With this new information, Anna's situation became even more precarious. The stranger made it clear that he would stop at nothing to see her life ruined, and Anna knew that she was running out of time. The past was no longer something she could bury. It was an active force in her life, one that threatened to destroy everything she held dear. She had to find a way to stop him, but she didn't know if she had the strength to face the truth and the consequences of her actions. Anna knew that her only chance of survival was to confront the man from her past and find a way to make amends, if that was even possible. She began to piece together the fragments of her old life, trying to understand what had led him to seek her out after all these years. It was a race against time, as she feared that every day that passed brought him closer to revealing everything to the world. She spent countless hours going through old records, searching for clues that might help her understand his motivations. She reached out to people she had long since left behind, hoping that someone could provide her with the information she needed. But as she delved deeper into the past, she realized just how much damage she had done, damage that couldn't easily be undone. Meanwhile, Mark was grappling with his own demons. He had received an ultimatum from his law firm: either resolve the issues in his personal life or risk losing his position. The pressure was mounting, and he felt like he was being pulled in every direction. He still loved Anna, but he didn't know if he could trust her. And without trust, how could their marriage survive? As the days ticked by, Mark knew that a decision had to be made, one that could either save or destroy everything they had built together. Mark found himself standing at the edge of a precipice, unsure of which way to turn. His love for Anna was still strong, but the weight of her lies was like a heavy stone dragging him down. He sought advice from an old friend, someone who had been through a similar ordeal. Over a late-night conversation, they discussed the complexities of love, trust, and forgiveness. His friend's words were a balm to Mark's troubled mind. "No one is perfect," he said. "We all have secrets, things we're not proud of. But what matters is how we deal with them, how we move forward. If you still love her, if you believe that there's something worth saving, then you owe it to yourself to try. But if the trust is gone, if you can't see a future together, then maybe it's time to let go." Mark spent the next few days in deep contemplation, weighing his options. He thought about the life they had built together, the love they had shared, and the woman Anna had become. Could he really walk away from all of that? But the doubts gnawed at him, and the decision wasn't any easier. The deadline loomed closer, and Mark knew that whatever choice he made would shape the rest of their lives. Anna's investigation into the stranger's motives finally bore fruit. She uncovered a series of events that had led to his pursuit of her, a chain reaction set off by a decision she had made in her youth. The realization was devastating. Her actions had ruined lives, and now those consequences were coming back to haunt her. She met with the stranger one last time, determined to face him and the truth head-on. They met in a secluded park, away from prying eyes. As they spoke, the full story came out: how her choices had led to the destruction of his family, how he had lost everything because of her. The weight of his words crushed her, and for the first time, Anna truly understood the impact of her past. But the stranger wasn't there just to confront her. He had come to make a deal. "You can't undo what's been done," he said. "But you can make things right. You can tell the truth, face the consequences, and try to make amends. Or you can continue to run, but know that I will never stop. I will follow you to the ends of the earth if I have to." The choice was hers, and it was one that would define the rest of her life. The final confrontation between Anna and the stranger was intense and filled with emotion. They met in the park once again, but this time, the stakes were higher. Anna knew that this was her last chance to make things right, but the fear of what might happen if she told the truth was overwhelming. The stranger laid out his demands. He wanted her to confess everything, to make a public apology, and to help him rebuild the life that she had taken from him. Anna listened in silence, her mind racing with thoughts of what this would mean for her future. But deep down, she knew that he was right. She couldn't run anymore. It was time to face the truth. With a heavy heart, Anna agreed to his terms. She knew that this would be the hardest thing she had ever done, but it was the only way to find peace. As they parted ways, Anna felt a sense of resolve wash over her. She was finally ready to confront her past, no matter the cost. The days ahead would be difficult, but she knew that she was doing the right thing. It was time to stop running and start making amends. The days following Anna's decision were some of the most challenging of her life. She made the difficult call to her lawyer and began the process of coming clean about her past. The confession was grueling, and the fallout was immediate. News of her past spread quickly, and the media latched onto the story, painting her as a villain who had lived a double life. Anna's career took a nosedive as clients distanced themselves from her, and her firm put her on indefinite leave. Friends who had once stood by her now avoided her, and she found herself isolated in a way she had never experienced before. But despite the pain, Anna felt a strange sense of relief. The truth was out, and there was no more hiding. She could finally begin to heal, even if it meant losing everything she had worked for. Mark, too, was struggling with the aftermath. He watched as his wife's world crumbled, and he couldn't help but feel a deep sadness for the woman he had once known. The truth had shattered their marriage, but in the wreckage, Mark saw a glimmer of the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman who was now trying to make things right. It was a small spark of hope, but it was enough to make him reconsider walking away. With the truth out in the open, Anna began the long and painful journey toward redemption. She reached out to the people she had wronged, offering apologies and seeking forgiveness. It wasn't easy. Some refused to even speak to her, while others lashed out in anger. But Anna persisted, knowing that this was the only way to make amends for the harm she had caused. She also started to rebuild her relationship with Mark. They began attending therapy together, working through the layers of hurt and betrayal that had built up over the years. It was a slow process, and there were many moments when Anna wondered if their marriage could truly be saved. But they were both committed to trying, and that commitment kept them going even on the darkest days. Anna also found herself drawn to charity work, using her skills as a designer to help renovate shelters and community centers. It was a way for her to give back, to use her talents for something positive. The work was rewarding, and it helped to fill the void left by the loss of her career. Little by little, Anna was finding her way back to herself, one step at a time. As time passed, the wounds between Anna and Mark began to heal. Therapy helped them to communicate more openly, and they started to rediscover the connection that had once drawn them together. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of doubt and pain, but they were committed to rebuilding their relationship on a foundation of honesty and trust. The process of healing was slow and often painful, but it was also deeply rewarding. Anna and Mark began to see each other in a new light, not as the perfect couple they had once tried to be, but as two flawed individuals who were willing to fight for their love. The experience brought them closer in ways they hadn't expected, and they started to forge a new bond, one that was stronger and more resilient than before. For Anna, the healing process was also about learning to forgive herself. She had spent so many years running from her past, burdened by guilt and shame. But now, as she worked to make amends and rebuild her life, she realized that forgiveness wasn't just something she needed from others, it was something she needed to give herself. And slowly, she began to let go of the self-loathing that had haunted her for so long. With the worst of the storm behind them, Anna and Mark began to look toward the future. They decided to renew their vows, not as a way to erase the past, but as a way to celebrate the new life they were building together. The ceremony was small and intimate, attended only by a few close friends who had stood by them through the ordeal. As they exchanged vows, Anna felt a deep sense of gratitude. She knew that they still had a long way to go, but they were on the right path. The life they were creating now was built on a foundation of truth and mutual respect, and that made it stronger than anything they had had before. They had been through the fire and come out the other side, scarred but not broken. The renewal of their vows marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Anna and Mark made a promise to each other that they would never again let secrets come between them. They had learned the hard way that honesty and openness were the keys to a lasting relationship, and they were determined to hold on to those lessons as they moved forward. Even as Anna and Mark embraced their new beginning, the echoes of the past continued to linger. There were moments when a familiar scent or a passing comment would trigger memories of the life Anna had tried so hard to leave behind. The scars from those years would always be a part of her, but she was learning to live with them. Anna also realized that healing was an ongoing process. There were still days when the guilt and regret would resurface, reminding her of the pain she had caused. But instead of letting those feelings consume her, Anna began to use them as a source of strength. She had survived the worst of it, and she was determined to use her experiences to help others who were struggling with their own pasts. Mark, too, had to confront his own lingering doubts. There were times when he would catch himself questioning Anna's honesty, wondering if there were still things she hadn't told him. But each time, he reminded himself of the progress they had made and the commitment they had made to each other. The trust they had rebuilt was fragile, but it was real, and that gave him hope. Just when it seemed like life was finally settling into a new normal, an unexpected development threatened to bring the past rushing back. Anna received a letter from an old acquaintance, someone she hadn't spoken to in years. The contents of the letter were vague, but the implications were clear. There were still unresolved issues from her past that needed to be addressed. The letter threw Anna into a state of panic. She had thought that she had put the past behind her, but now it seemed that there were still loose ends that needed to be tied up. She debated whether to tell Mark about the letter, fearing that it would reopen old wounds and undo all the progress they had made. But in the end, she decided that honesty was the only way forward. When she showed the letter to Mark, he reacted with a mixture of concern and frustration. "I thought we were done with this," he said, his voice tinged with exhaustion. Anna could see the weariness in his eyes, and she knew that he was just as tired of the past as she was. But they both understood that they couldn't ignore this new development. Together, they would have to face whatever came next. The new challenge that had entered their lives was a true test of Anna and Mark's commitment to each other. The unresolved issue from Anna's past was more serious than they had initially realized, and it required them to confront not only the past but also their deepest fears about the future. It was a test of their love, their trust, and their ability to overcome adversity together. Anna and Mark found themselves navigating a complex web of emotions as they dealt with this new crisis. There were moments of doubt, anger, and frustration, but there were also moments of profound connection and understanding. They had been through so much already, and this final test pushed them to their limits. But instead of letting it break them, they leaned on each other for support. They talked openly about their fears and insecurities, and they made a conscious effort to be there for each other in ways they hadn't before. It wasn't easy, but they were determined to pass this final test, no matter what it took. And in the end, their love proved stronger than the challenges they faced. After weeks of tension and uncertainty, Anna and Mark finally found a resolution to the crisis that had threatened to upend their lives once again. It wasn't the outcome they had expected, but it was one that allowed them to move forward with a sense of closure and peace. The unresolved issues from Anna's past were finally laid to rest, and they could now focus on the future without the weight of those old burdens. The resolution brought with it a sense of relief, but also a deep sense of gratitude. Anna and Mark had been through more than most couples could endure, and yet they had come out the other side stronger and more united than ever. They had learned that life was unpredictable and that the only way to survive was to face each challenge head-on, together. As they looked back on everything they had been through, Anna and Mark realized that their journey had made them better people. They had grown as individuals and as a couple, and they were now more prepared than ever to face whatever the future might hold. The resolution of this final crisis marked the end of a long and difficult chapter in their lives, but it also signaled the beginning of a new, brighter chapter, one that they were ready to embrace with open hearts. With the past finally behind them, Anna and Mark began the process of rebuilding their lives from the ground up. They knew that their relationship would never be the same as it was before the truth came out, but that was okay. What they had now was something deeper, more authentic, and more resilient. They had learned to accept each other's flaws and to love each other despite them. Anna threw herself into her charity work, finding new meaning and purpose in helping others. The work was fulfilling in a way that her previous career had never been, and it gave her a sense of pride and accomplishment that she hadn't felt in years. She was no longer defined by her past mistakes. Instead, she was defined by the positive impact she was making on the world around her. Mark, too, found a renewed sense of purpose. He continued to excel in his legal career, but he also made more time for the things that really mattered: his family, his friends, and his relationship with Anna. The two of them made a conscious effort to nurture their marriage, taking time to reconnect and to build new memories together. Their life was no longer about pretending to be perfect. It was about being real, being present, and being there for each other through thick and thin. As part of her journey of redemption, Anna decided that there was one last thing she needed to do. There was someone from her past who had been deeply affected by her actions, someone she had wronged in a way that had never been fully addressed. Anna knew that she couldn't truly move on until she had made amends with this person, and so she set out to find them. It took time and effort, but eventually, Anna tracked down the person she was looking for. They met in a quiet park, much like the one where she had faced the stranger who had turned her life upside down. The conversation was difficult, filled with raw emotions and painful memories. But it was also healing. Anna offered a heartfelt apology, and while forgiveness wasn't immediate, there was a sense of closure that had been missing for so long. As they parted ways, Anna felt a sense of peace that she hadn't experienced in years. She had done everything she could to make things right, and now it was time to let go. The past would always be a part of her, but it no longer defined her. She was ready to say goodbye to the shadows that had haunted her and to embrace the future with hope and optimism. The story of Anna and Mark's journey was one of love, betrayal, and ultimately, redemption. They had faced challenges that would have torn most couples apart, but they had come through it all with their love intact. They knew that their relationship would always be a work in progress, but they were committed to making it work, no matter what. On the anniversary of their vow renewal, Anna and Mark made a promise to each other. They promised to always be honest, to always communicate, and to always put each other first. They had learned the hard way that secrets and lies could destroy even the strongest of relationships, and they were determined never to let that happen again. As they stood together, hand in hand, looking out over the horizon, they knew that their future was bright. They had been through the fire, and they had come out the other side stronger than ever. Their love had been tested, but it had survived, and now they were ready to face whatever life had in store for them. Together, they were unstoppable. In the years that followed, Anna and Mark's story became an inspiration to those around them. They had faced the worst that life had to offer, and yet they had come through it all with their love and their integrity intact. Their journey was a testament to the power of truth, the importance of forgiveness, and the resilience of the human spirit. Anna continued her work with charities, using her experiences to help others who were struggling with their own pasts. She became a mentor to young women, offering them guidance and support as they navigated the challenges of life. Her story was one of redemption, and she was determined to use it to make a difference in the world. Mark, too, found new meaning in his work and in his life. He became an advocate for honesty and transparency in his profession, using his own experiences as a reminder of the importance of integrity. Together, he and Anna built a life that was full of love, laughter, and meaning, a life that was truly worth living.